Alright everyone, this is Zero Budget Geek and welcome to the Kickstarter preview of Mythic Wars Clash of the Gods, the card game of mythic proportions for 2 to 8 players, designed by Eric Woodward and published by Excalibur Games. As with most Kickstarters, please remember this is a prototype edition and is subject to change. In this game, each player takes on the role of advocate, supporting a faction of 4 deities, gods and or goddesses. Each round, the advocate chooses which god or goddess to invoke and bring into the battle, and what attacks or other actions the active deities should perform. After each god and goddess in play has been empowered with a chance to perform an action, the round ends. This continues, only one faction remains. To set up a game, each player is going to have to put together a deck of 4 cards. Now, you can, before the game starts, you can go through and construct your team. If you're experienced with this game, you can just deal them out randomly, deal 4 out randomly, or you can set a bunch out and do a draft. Once you have your 4 cards plus you as the player are a single faction. Now, there are different cards that you have. Most of the cards are going to be gods. Every single card in the game is an entity. Some will be gods or goddesses. Most of them are deities. And some are creatures. Creatures you don't start off with, but some of the gods will be able to call creatures into play. So let's take a closer look at one of these cards. Here we have a goddess. She's a deity and an entity, which is most of the cards will have that. And let's start at the top. So we have the name of the goddess. So that's Demeter. This symbol over here is the particular pantheon that she is from. Doesn't really come up in game, though there may be cards eventually that will reference that. Up here we have a power score. This is essentially the health of this goddess. When you play this goddess, she will have 7 health, and if she takes damage in battle, this will go down. If it goes down to 0, she is defeated and removed from the game. Over here below the picture, we have an element symbol. There are a number of different elements in the game, and most of the cards will reference the element, whether something's weak to it or not, or what effects there will be. Down in the lower left hand corner, we have a red symbol with a number. That is the attack. This is how much damage this god will do if she goes to attack, and conversely, here is her defense if she is being attacked. Then in here, the text box, we have an ability. Some will be, ongoing. Some are when you first play them. You have to read each one to know what they do. And then after that, there'll be some flavor text. There are some creature cards that, there are not a lot of them, so because not a lot of the gods call creatures, but there are a few. They're pretty much exactly the same. They have the name, a power score, element, attack, and defense, and they may or may not have a special ability. During the game, your card will be in a number of different states. Now, all your cards are going to start off face down. This is called the uninvoked state. When it is face down like this, it is not yet in its battle, and none of its abilities are active. It's just it's not doing anything. Then, at a certain point, you will be able to turn it face up, and that means it is invoked, but it's unempowered. So it's ready to be used, but you have not used it yet. Then you can turn it face up and sideways like this, and that means it is empowered, which means it's being used for something. And then if it gets defeated, you will turn it face down, sideways, and when it's like this, that entity is defeated. Remember, if all 4 of your entities are defeated, you are removed from the game. Once you have put together your team of 4 entities or your faction, you're going to line them up face down in front of you like this. Each player is going to do this, and then you're ready to start the game. Here we have a setup for 2 players. You're going to randomly choose a player to be the start player of the game, also known as the prime faction, and they're going to start the game. Now, the prime faction is probably going to shift between, throughout the game, so different players will get a chance to be a start player, in each given round. In a 2-player game, it doesn't matter as much. When you have more players, it will matter a little bit more. Okay, so let's go through a typical turn. Well, the first thing on your turn is the start of round phase. If any of your guys are face up and they have any kind of ongoing abilities or anything that says start of round, this is when you would resolve it. But at the beginning of the game, you won't have that, so you won't do that. Next, we go into the second part of your turn, which is the invocation phase. If any of your guys are face down but not defeated, you must invoke one of them. And this is not optional. You have to choose one to invoke. So, because all our guys are face down but they are still alive, essentially we're going to invoke one, so we'll pick this one here. And when you invoke it, you simply turn it face up, and then you're going to read out the card to the other players. You're going to tell what the name of the deity is and pretty much everything about it, and then you're going to look at its power score, and you're going to use right now, since this is a prototype, we're using dice, but there may be other components later. But anyway, we're going to put a number there. So 7 power, we'll put a die there, 7. So that's the health of that deity. Now, after you have revealed your deity in clockwise order, each other player must also invoke a deity, and this is still happening during your turn. So we'll go to the next player here. He'll flip over one of them, and this is not optional. If they have one face down, they must invoke it. So we bring this guy here, Benzaiten, and he has 6 energy. So we'll put a die on him to show that he has 6 energy there, and each player will do that in order. So after your invocation phase, we will go to the empowerment phase, and simply this is just the time when you can do something with your deities. Right now we only have one deity. If we had more, we could choose one, but you need to pick one, and you're going to empower them. So you're going to turn them sideways, and you must do this. You must pick one of yours to turn sideways. Now, once you turn them sideways, you have a choice of what it is you want to do. You can simply use them to attack the an opposing entity. So right here we could have our entity here, which has an attack of 7, attack this guy over here who has a defense of 7. So we can do an attack there if we wanted to. Or some entities like Set here have a little lightning bolt symbol. Let me see if I can show you that a little bit better. There's a little lightning bolt symbol there. If you have a lightning bolt symbol like that, you can turn your entity sideways to activate the text of that card in order to gain some kind of effect. Or lastly, the final option is you can empower your deity, turn them sideways, but then not do anything. Maybe you don't want to do attack, maybe there's not a special ability you want to do, but you need to turn them sideways to show that basically they've used up an action. Then after that, your turn ends, you go into your end phase. There are some effects that will take place during the end phase. You'll have to look at the cards in play and resolve them in clockwise order. Let's look at how combat works. It's relatively simple. Let's say on my turn, I empower Orniari and I choose to have her combat Benzaiten. So I will declare to my opponent that I'm attacking him. I will turn him sideways and show which one I'm attacking. Next, each player is going to roll a 6-sided die. So Orniari is going to roll a 6-sided die. She's going to add that to her attack score. The defender is going to roll his 6-sided die and add it to his defense score. If the totals are tied, both players will need to roll again and compare the results. So there's no ties allowed. If the defense is higher than the attack total, then the attack just simply misses. If the attack was higher than the defense, then the difference is taken as damage to that player's power. So in this case here, we have a tie, so we'd have to re-roll. But let's say we rolled 5 plus 7 is 12 versus 11. This guy would take 1 point of damage to their power. Now, there is a chance to get a critical hit. If you roll a 6 on the die, that is called a critical roll. A critical roll will always defeat a non-critical roll, so regardless of the total. So if I rolled a 6 and I had a lower attack and the total on the defense was higher, but it was not critical, the attack still goes through. And same thing with a defense. A defense of a critical 6 defeats anything. Now, if both players have a roll a 6, so they both have a critical, then it's not really a critical. You just simply compare the numbers as normal. Now, it's important to remember that there are some of the cards will have modifiers to the combat. So something may say, you get plus, +2 or +3. Something may give a minus. So there's different modifiers that you need to be aware of. There is also the concept of clashing. Some cards will say that an entity will clash with another entity. It's very similar to common. In fact, it's resolved almost the same way. But instead of using attack or defense, you use the power score of that entity. So if I'm clashing with these two, we would roll the 6-sided dice and add those to our power score. And again, the difference is taken off the loser's power score. Now, as I mentioned before, some of the gods can actually summon creatures. So, for instance, Ra here, when this god is invoked, he may summon a Sphinx creature. This god cannot be attacked while there is a Sphinx in this faction. So, we would start off with Ra face down. We invoke him. At that point, we can summon this Sphinx. Now, the Sphinx won't be anywhere. It'll just be off to the side. You'll pull it out and you'll bring it in play. You'll put it in front of your deity. Now, your deity cannot be attacked as long as this Sphinx is in place. So your opponents will have to attack this first and remove it before they can attack Ra. But that's just an attack. There, you can still clash with Ra. So if a player clashes with Ra and they find a way to defeat Ra before they defeat the Sphinx, not only will Ra get defeated, but also the Sphinx will get defeated, and you'll put them both face down and sideways. So the players are going to keep taking their turns like that. You go through all the steps, perform all the actions. If all your guys are defeated, you are removed from the game, and you keep on playing with any remaining players. Once a player's last entity, again, is defeated, they are removed to the game, and once there's only one player with at least one entity still alive, that player is the winner. And so that is Mythic Wars, Clash of the Gods. If this looks like a game that you think you would enjoy, please feel free to go check out the Kickstarter. It's not live yet, but it's coming soon. Check down in the description box. I'll have the link there when it becomes available. And then you can go there and go ahead and support this game. So guys, I appreciate you watching. Hope you like this video. Give me a like and share it with your friends. And guys, until next time, I'll see you soon.